Thanks very much, Pat. She's very ably introduced our subject broadly, which is how can we use the technology to facilitate foreign language learning as Spanish teachers. I think probably in every subject discipline there's been an enormous proliferation of opportunities and great discussion of the potential of the internet and different media and technological means for enhancing the educational experience and for improving teaching efficacy. And language is exactly the same. There are huge opportunities for directing students towards native speaker output in the form of videos, for using film. You can have them do subtitling exercises. Obviously the internet is an enormously powerful tool for gathering information about culture and about other countries. But the real question that confronts the teacher is exactly which methods are you going to pull from this great pool of potential methods to use in your courses? Exactly how do you facilitate a meaningful exchange and avoid the kind of information overload and just a situation where the potential is amazing but you're not quite exactly sure what you're doing. So we tried to start with something that was manageable for us and that involved a two-stream project, a paired activity that we hoped went together well. So on the one hand we were inviting a foreign classroom from Costa Rica in this case to our Moodle course site and conducting a series of exchanges with them through the discussion forum tool, very simply. And on the other hand, as the class was doing that, we were getting our own students to make short films using their phones and then putting a soundtrack on it that they'd written a script for in Spanish. And then we hoped to put those together by showing the Costa Rican classroom exactly what our campus looked like and have them do the same and then talk about the differences and similarities and use that as a platform to provoke further questions and queries. Didn't come out exactly as we'd planned, as you'll see, but that was the idea. And you can see how, you know, a film is a project-based activity. You have a very specific goal and result, and there's a lot of talk about project-based learning. It's a very good idea also for language teaching, so you're not focusing so heavily on intimidating aspects like grammar and pronunciation that students can find nerve-wracking. You've got a film to make, so however you pronounce and whatever your grammar's like, go and make the film. It's a nice idea. We thought it went well with the exchange because they're making the film for a reason. If you just say, go and make a film about the campus, that's fine, but why? You know, who's going to see it? So if we're showing it to somebody outside the country, they have an audience in mind. Obviously that's a more directed activity and the project has some kind of specific purpose there. And equally, if the exchange itself weren't just a series of discussion exchanges but actually had some culmination, we hope that would give the whole thing some shape as well. So what did we want to achieve with the technology? We wanted the students to communicate directly with native speakers of Spanish. That seems to be a self-evidently beneficial goal for any activity. They communicate with native speakers already. Some of their teachers are native speakers. They all have to go to conversation classes. But this was communicating with native speaker peers. It will be other students they'd be communicating with, but in a kind of controlled environment that we would be reflecting on. So we hoped that because they were communicating with other students in Costa Rica rather than teachers all the time, that we would take again some of the fear of communicating away from it. Incidentally, we also gave the Costa Ricans the option of, we tried to accommodate them using English half of the time approximately, as they were inevitably students of English who had parallel interest in this project. They were actually trainee teachers of English who were doing a course in how to incorporate culture into language learning. So in fact the whole process was very appropriate for them as well. We also wanted to stimulate cultural learning beyond textbook food and festivals. Now food and festivals is a rather caricatured way of describing what a language learning textbook tends to do with the cultural aspect of language learning. Obviously, you have lots of explanations of grammar and readings and so on and so forth, and then at some point in the chapter, the food or the carnivals, the festivals, or the social life is described of a given country. So in the textbooks we use, they may talk about the family in the Hispanic world in Latin America or in a particular country. Obviously you can supplement that with video material, with podcasts and so forth. But in the end, it's always a difficult thing to bring the experience of a foreign culture to a student when they're not there, they're not in it. And thirdly, we wanted to have a goal-oriented activity that wasn't just a text. Inevitably, language learning is heavily textually based. When the students aren't speaking or listening, then they tend to be reading or writing. Those are the 4 skills that you're trying to cultivate. As we've heard from many speakers, and I'm sure others will reinforce the point, if you give a student a printed piece of paper these days in the classroom with no pictures on it, then the first thing they do is get out their BlackBerry and think about how to spend the next 10 minutes. So we're getting away from just a textual activity. Making a film involves leaving the classroom, it involves planning, it involves using a piece of technical apparatus, and then it involves various stages, so they have to meet and so forth, and plan a schedule. They have to do all sorts of things that are not just reading a text or talking about it or even writing it. So language learning, as I said, is often heavily textual, and students are not so textual in many cases. We have plenty of students now who, although our language degree involves pretty much 50% evaluation on language-oriented activities and 50% on literature, as it's still called, although that now includes film and culture and other things, we still have students who come into our first year and say very bluntly that they don't like reading, even though half the degree is reading, and that they know that from the outset. So that's the stage we're at as far as the attitude to sitting down with a book is concerned. The other deficiency we have in our program is that we're still struggling manfully towards having a regular immersion program for our students so that they can spend some time in a French, Spanish, Portuguese speaking country on a regular basis. We do have some programs, but the most effective ones where they spend the longest time are actually after they graduate from us, so we don't see the results. And we wanted to see, could we at least partially simulate the experience of putting them in another country, at least have them thinking about being in another country because they're in contact with a citizen of that country through the activity. So we invited a Spanish-speaking class to our site, and we structured an exchange of views and information that I'll elaborate on shortly, and we made the film. And Lede was essentially responsible for having the students make the film, so she's going to take you through that for a few minutes.
Hello everybody, good morning. I'm going to talk about the project we did. The goal, as Ian said, was to create a short movie, and the objective was not just doing it, but making them speak in Spanish outside the classroom. That's something they don't do here because they are not used to it and they don't have the opportunities. And through making the film, they are able to acquire other kind of capabilities and abilities, skills that they'll need in the future in any other setting, not just to learn to speak the language. One of my students kindly send me an audio, and she's going to explain.
In the Spanish language class, we were asked to compile a video of both audio and visual effects. We were very excited about using various technologies such as our BlackBerries, cameras and laptops to help us create these videos. It was fun to finally have an assignment that wasn't written. The audio of the video helped us with our grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation, as each group had to write a script and then record them using special equipment. The only thing that I did not like about the project was the fact that we did not get to choose what we wanted to base our video on. But other than that, it was fun to do.
Okay, as you just listened to the student, she realized it was just not a text-based project. It was more than that. They had the opportunity to be out of the classroom and have power. We will take into account her opinion about the selection of the place for next year, but they were solely responsible of assigning roles, who was going to be the director, who's going to be in charge of the script. So they were really independent learners. That's something that we were promoting also. How this began? During the first semester, trying to use what we learned, trying to use what we learned in Kotlin and Moodle tools, I tried to use the podcast. And I tried. I was not exactly what it's supposed to be, but it was a podcast. I got every student in the classroom recorded a podcast and posted, but only once. So a podcast supposed to be weekly or every 2 weeks and more regularly. But that's how it started. They made a podcast. They had a topic. It was related to university, how to help students be better students, and other topics related to university. It was great. The students did well and they were enthusiastic and they just needed their cell phones. All of them have cell phones, and if not, they can share. So it was very easy to do. Didn't create many difficulties. So second semester, talking with the Costa Ricans were in the picture also. We're trying to make everything more interactive. They don't have the opportunity to go there or come here, so how can we make them be part of this? So we thought that maybe we could try to do a short film, and in this way we'll make possible that they see what Cave Hill campus looks like, and then they will send us their campus, but that never happened. And we are not very sure if they saw our videos, but they are there to be seen at the Moodle page. The film, as my student pointed out, is in groups of 3 students, cannot be more than 2 minutes. I assigned each group randomly. I had a bag with the different locations. I gave numbers and randomly, and I told them you can swap if everybody agrees, but I gave them the locations. And during a language lab class, so they were not, many times students complain that they have a lot of work to do and we don't think about them and they have other classes. So I used my time, the time I used in class, and I gave them time to go outside to do the recording. So 3 students, they had a location and they had to record maximum 2 minutes. Well, the final product has to be maximum 2 minutes. They can record as much as they want, but we have to edit it. And then the audio is independent. During the video recording, a rule was they had to speak in Spanish. And they were like, why? No, why? Why do you tell me that? Because you are in Spanish class. And I said, and I'm going to listen to the video. So I want to know if you are doing this in Spanish or not. It worked out. It was funny. They were recording, mixing Spanish and English, but they were aware of the fact that they had to use the language outside the classroom. I don't have any of those examples, but they did it. All of them, all of the teams. So they recorded, and then they came to the lab to write the script. Again, in class time. They don't have to be outside. They work outside the classroom also, but they had enough time in class. So they wrote a script, and they sent it to me. I made sure that the grammar was all right. But they did it in the group, so it was pretty good, the grammar, when they gave it to me. And then it was time when all the teams had their videos and audios, they had to give it to me, and that's when the problems came, in a way. Because I'm very stubborn and I like to do things by myself to learn, but sometimes you need help, and I know I can count on Pat and the team. So they sent me the original idea was to post the video and the audio separately in Moodle. I download it in my computer. I edit each video. Videos were the longest 2 minutes 40 seconds. So I had to cut. So I had the video, and then I had the audio. And the audio was 2 minutes, for example, and the video was 2:40. So I had to edit the video to match the audio. And to do that, I use iMovie, because I'm a Mac user, and it was difficult. But I know that Microsoft, like in a PC, you have very good programs to work with movies. It was not very, very easy, but it was easy to marry screen and sound. That was not one of the most difficult things to do. Once you know how to use the tools, you just do it. And then I had the little short movies from each part of the campus. And then, well, I put everything together. And the problem came here when we wanted to make it available to Costa Rica. Posting videos of that size, because they were edited, you'll see one at the end, with titles, and it was heavy, it was big, the size was big. So I wanted to post the videos on the course site for direct viewing for Costa Rica, but in Moodle, size matters, and it was horrible. Like, I was fighting with Moodle for hours until I realized that was not the way to do it. So solution, there's always a problem, a solution comes. And I thought about uploading in YouTube. So I did that. I uploaded in YouTube in a private way, so only people who has the link can see, just in case my students don't want to be in YouTube, but they don't really mind, but even though that is private. So I uploaded in YouTube and put it in a link in Moodle. And here's the YouTube website, and if you go to my Moodle site, our Moodle site, you see it's easy. It's a link, and you go there and you can see the video. Okay, what are the learning values of this activity? Well, it promotes cooperative learning. Students like to be together. They are social. They want to interact with each other. Sometimes they don't have the time. Sometimes they are too busy with their BBs, Blackberries, Facebook. They are not communicating to each other, so it really promotes cooperative learning. It was nice to see students working together, and we were commenting the fact that some students are shy and they don't want to maybe speak in front of the camera, but they are super good organizing or writing the script. So all the students had the chance to be an active member of the project. We stimulated the 3 most common learning styles: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. You know, students, they don't learn the same way, obviously. So this activity really promoted the 3 most important most common learning styles. We encourage hands-on learning. I consider myself a student all my life. I think I'll always be a student, and I love hands-on learning. I like to be active and do things by myself. As you will see if we have time to see the video, it improves oral expression, intonation, and pronunciation in a very natural way. Because I tell them, you are actors, and they tend to exaggerate, and they have fun, and they are not shy because they are not in front of the audience. They are in their little groups, and the results were very, very, very nice. The videos were very good. And it also improved writing skills. You know, some teachers are more traditional. They are worried. What's happening with the grammar? What's happening? Grammar was good also. Writing was great. The script was really, really good also. We are looking for a student-centered learning, and still we have teachers in front of a classroom giving lectures. They were the center of this activity. And they were in power, and they organized, and I was in a side. Totally, they ignored me for like some sessions. Just, how do you? They didn't need me. So it's nice to see students being independent. And obviously encourages the students to take responsibility for their own learning. I was reading an article, and it says that experiences that involve students and require them to interact as a part of their own learning are more likely to maintain their interest. Motivation and create interest in our students, I think it's what makes students to learn. So it's a good thing. And another important part of the project was to promote intercultural competence. When you learn a language outside the country, you are lacking from the cultural aspect of the language. So this activity promoted that also. They had the opportunity, well, with the Costa Ricans when they were in the forums talking, and they were trying to show how the university is organized to another country. And I think it really worked out well. And this is it from the film. I'm going to let you with Ian now.
Thanks, lady. Yeah, so how did I find a classroom in a Spanish-speaking country to exchange with? Well, I used the ePals website, which is not just for language learning. It pretty much allows you to hook up with a classroom anywhere in the world and do any kind of exchange you wish. I recommend it to anyone who wants to. And essentially you just post a profile, as I did there, saying what I want, this is the level of my students, this is their age, and people reply to you. I got one reply from Colombia, one from Costa Rica, and the one from Costa Rica is the one that worked out. So I spoke to the Costa Rican tutor using Skype several times before we started, and that was very important, that we saw each other, heard each other speak, and didn't just exchange emails, because we got an impression of each other's personalities, what our particular hang-ups are and obsessions as teachers, and the kinds of protocols that need to be observed as far as responding to the other person and so forth, because obviously you get very busy in the middle of the semester, they're asking for a reply and they don't know who you are really. So some kind of acquaintance through a video conferencing protocol like Skype, I think, is a really good idea with the tutor. We couldn't set that up in the classroom, students to students, which, as you'll see at the end, is what the students really wanted. They wanted us to be able to see each other and speak to each other directly. And unfortunately, although we're roughly in the same time zone, it just didn't work out. Your classes obviously have to coincide, your hours, exactly for that to happen, unless you organise a special session and then only some of them can come because the others have classes or other responsibilities, etc. So that's a bit of an uncontrollable variable that's kind of hard to account for. Does anyone know who that is? No? No, that's the president of Costa Rica. So this is how I started introducing the classroom in Costa Rica to my students. I said, what do you know about Costa Rica? An information gap, which is in fact an information abyss, because they don't know anything about Costa Rica. Understandably, they haven't been told anything. So the first thing, it has a female head of state, which is quite interesting. You can discuss other female heads of state in Latin America. You know, if you happen to be doing something like that in the classroom anyway, you can have a debate about when they think Barbados will have a female head of state, if ever, and why it doesn't and never has had. Those kinds of things. So I tried to find something that was interesting about Costa Rica to give them. And then I said to them, look, since you don't know very much about it, go away and find something about it. And I don't want the surface area or the population. I want you to find something a bit quirky and odd about it. And what they came up with is this. They read that even in San Jose, the capital, there are hardly any street names. People give directions by pointing out landmarks, buildings, trees even. And one of them in the course of it told us that, you know, she'd been driving around for hours because everyone kept telling her to find a mango tree that had been sawn down to a stump. And so she couldn't see it, obviously. It has no army, Costa Rica. It's very unusual for a country of that size not to have an army. So that was one thing they found. And the other thing is that it is internationally renowned as a destination for pedophiles, and it has a child prostitution problem. I knew that was true because, having been to Costa Rica, you see big hoardings in the countryside talking about it, telling you you're not welcome if that's what you're there for, and so forth. Rather like you do with drugs in some places. So, okay, they found three interesting things that we decided we would ask our Costa Rican counterparts about. We exchanged photos and put them on the website with the names on them as you see there, quite simply so we can see what each other looks like. That was obviously quite important. As you see, there are hardly any people in my class. There were more people in the class. That's the people that were there for the day of the photo. It was a small class. Our classes tend to be small in languages anyway, usually around 15, although they can go up to nearer 25. But this was a very small class. I only had 11 in the class, and those were the ones that were there. Again, exchanging the photo, you can talk about what the people on the other end look like. What do you see about them? Do they look like what you thought a Costa Rican might look like? What are they wearing? What do you think their personalities are like? And then you can see if that's borne out by the kind of answers they give in the discussion forums. And we also exchange sound files with a very brief introduction in our own language. So we had a file where I was saying, hello, my name's Ian, I'm the teacher. And we just edited a file together. Here is two of the Costa Ricans introducing themselves. I want you to listen to how the name of the country is pronounced when the male voice speaks second. As you know, that's pronounced in most Spanish variants, Costa Rica, with that R noise, which Anglophone people often find difficult to learn.
Hola, mi nombre es Karen y me gustaría mucho tener contacto con ustedes pronto. Saludos, chao.
Soy Norma, yo soy Norma, le mandamos un saludo de Costa Rica y espero conocer. Buena vida.
Right, hard to hear because there was noise in the background when they were recording, but you hear he just says Costa Rica. The R is exactly like an English R, and in fact the R in Costa Rica is quite similar to the one they do in Chile. It's very, very soft. So even just from that exercise, that was very encouraging for those students who find it difficult to pronounce that sound, to find that a native speaker, although speaking really quickly, you can avoid that noise if you go to Costa Rica. You don't have to be sitting at home going before you go out on the street. So just it can give you unexpected nuggets, this kind of activity. I'm going to talk about the forums as we go straight into the challenges and the development we wanted to give to this activity. I assigned the teacher, the Costa Rican tutor, the non-editing teacher role in Moodle. And that was a problem, because it turned out that the way it was configured was that she did not get notifications when I posted on the forums, for example. It had to be adjusted by Dirk, I think his name is, right? So a trust issue arose. I was sending I was posting something on forum and saying, yes, send an email to all of the participants, and it wasn't getting to her. So she accused me of emailing her students without copying her. She was a Moodle novice, and so were all of them. And in fact, even at the very end of the semester, some of them had still not been able to get access to the site, even though Dirk had sent us all of the usernames and passwords. For some reason, they still couldn't get in from that end. So to facilitate that at that end, you would want to send both tutors all of the usernames and passwords, so that you can see if it's something that it's on their computer or whether there's some transcription problem. Cultural sensitivity. Well, I had a moment of cultural insensitivity that you're about to see that generated an interesting incident. On the child prostitution, this is the way I pitched this to them. We were going to ask them about those things that we had come across on the internet. So I put child prostitution, the name. Not such a nice thing to be known for. In a country with strong political institutions and presumably being basically Catholic, a strong sense of family integration, how come child prostitution has grown to international dimensions? I don't know if that sounds blunt to you, but it did to them. They felt that their national identity was being in some way attacked with that rather offhand, cocky English kind of, right? So this is the answer of the guy you just heard saying Costa Rica without the rolled R. Personally, I did not really like the way you started this topic. Most of the people who come to Costa Rica looking for sex with children are from all over the world, not from my country. Of course, there is prostitution here in my motherland as there is It's the oldest occupation after all. The problem emerges when people overgeneralize a reality they completely ignore and express ideas about topics they do not really know. He's talking about me there. Most of the prostitutes we have in our country are from other American countries. The emphasis you see there is mine, not his, and I just put it there to explain how even when they're writing in English, it's useful for our Spanish learners, because the way he uses ignore there, he's directly translating the Spanish verb ignorar, which means don't know about, are ignorant of, rather than take no notice of. So that false cognate you can pick up on and remind the students that it's a false cognate. Equally, other American countries is odd in English. It means Latin American countries. But Americanos, or he could mean the United States, in fact, is what it emerged he meant. But for him, an American country is any country in the Americas, whereas we don't use the adjective American normally in English to mean anything other than from the United States. So again, you can pick up on that and remind them they need to say estadounidense if that's what they mean in Spanish, and latinoamericano if that's what they mean in Spanish, etc. So, next time round we would exchange all of the login names and passwords to avoid some of those problems. I would like to try and incorporate other things than the discussion forums and the film exercise. I don't know how to use wikis and blogs properly, so I'll be at the relevant workshop this week. And maybe exchange the discussion forum openings with the other tutor before I post them, so that she can say, look, this sounds kind of rough on us here. Maybe you want to couch it differently. And back to the film.
The challenges and developments, things I will advise them to do next semester if they continue with this project. We need to refine the results, maybe with help from the EMS. They always help us, but we really need help with that to edit the movie. I was thinking that a nice thing to do would be to add subtitles. Ask maybe the Costa Ricans to add subtitles in English, so they'll be practicing with their language, and it's a nice exercise. I could show you the movie with English subtitles. That'd be nice also, and it could be used in the university as a promotional video. Who knows? It's 1 minute 30 seconds. They are nice. Another thing that we thought may be useful with some teams, most of them work perfectly, but give them specific roles according to their personality type and learning styles. If we know somebody has issues to be in front of the camera, make sure that person is going to have a role. He's going to be the chief script writer, for example. So assigning roles be another way to improve the activity. Collaboration with film students. I was talking to a member of the film, one of the teachers that teaches film production, and he said it'd be nice to make, instead of asking to the EMS to help us edit the movies, they could use the students that are learning how to edit a movie to edit our movies as a project with them. So we'll be cooperating with other faculties. And we also have Venezuelan students in campus. I'm not sure if you know about that. Maybe we should use them wisely more, work with them for this kind of activities, and making more of the results. The truth is that we didn't really make the best. It was difficult to put it public, but maybe a public screening with all the courses together, or maybe online conference, meeting in Skype and watching the movie together. The YouTube channel maybe I will open if students are okay, and there is an actual competition that I hope next year we can participate. It's a short video, and it's in December, and I hope we can present some of our students' work for that. And that's it from the challenges and developments. And we have a very, very short feedback from students, because I think they are the most important and the ones that can give us what they think. So I'm going to play. This is from one of the classes that did the short film project, and she's telling us her opinion.
I thought the film project was actually quite fun and interesting, because we were divided into groups, and each group had a part of the campus to make a video about it. The videos actually turned out to be quite funny, and at the same time we got to practice speaking in Spanish. So it was a nice little fun class activity.
Little. That's cute. And this is the opinion on use of technology in the class from a student in third year. Sorry, how do I go back? Yeah. And this is what she thinks about the use of technology in the language class.
So it made class a lot more interactive. Instead of just listening to a lecturer speak or each other speak, we watched videos. We put our voices to video clips to make advertisements. So therefore, all in all, it, in my opinion, was more beneficial because with use of the technology, it then made the assignments more hands-on, and that's what a lot of courses are lacking.
Right, and finally there on the ePals exchange, this is one of the Costa Ricans saying that the activity was very helpful, but there should be more clear objectives for the forums, and that there was some loss of continuity. Sometimes the replies came back too late and the whole process was spread out a bit, and finally that they wanted to talk face-to-face with the people in Barbados, which a number of ours said as well. Obviously it makes it more real if you can get that to happen. And finally, here's a very short extract. Well, here's one of the films, which, as you know already, is very, very short.
Bienvenidos a la tienda de libros del campus de Films&Overseas. Está abierta lunes a jueves de las 8:30 de la mañana hasta las 7 de la noche, los viernes de las 8:30 hasta las 5 y los sábados de las 9 de la mañana hasta las 2. Está cerrada los domingos y los días feriados. Tiene una rampa para ayudar a los discapacitados. Cuando entran en la tienda, deben dejar sus cosas en un armario antes de continuar en la tienda. En la planta baja hay aparatos electrónicos, cartas, regalos, como peluche, medicina, maquillaje, artículos de perfumería, camisetas, libros de lectura, placentera, artículos de papelería, pies y bebidas. Todo lo que ustedes quieren está allí. En el segundo piso se puede encontrar todos los libros escolares de las diferentes facultades en la universidad, como la literatura del Caribe, el trabajo social, las lenguas y la medicina, por citar algunas. Existe una sección con agentes del servicio al cliente donde se puede pedir ayuda. Aquí, los estudiantes pueden también vender sus libros ya usados a la tienda a mitad de precio. Después de escoger sus productos, deben ir a la planta baja para pagar por ellos. Gracias por comprar aquí. Y recuerden, no hay nada que no tengamos, solamente deben pedirlo.
Alright, she's not going to win any prizes for the film, but it's a big team effort and you can see that they're having fun with it.